Good morning, guys. I hope all of you can hear me. If you can hear me, just type in the chat section, yes. Okay, okay, great. So, welcome to our taster section this morning. So this taster section should take approximately just about 40 to 45 minutes. So I was just trying to wait to see if we can have a few guys to join us. But we're going to start our taster section now. Okay, so my name is Mr. Esser, and I'm one of the teachers at our department of philosophy and ethics. And so we have other teachers who are also in the department, and we have another one who will join us in September. So we have Mr. Wamsley, who is teaching at the moment, and we have another teacher, Mr. Tester, who will also join us in September. Okay. So this morning, we are going to look at a few things as far as our A-level philosophy and ethics, religious studies at A-level is concerned. And so as you can see on the PowerPoint, we've got some well-known philosophers just in there. Now, looking at the pictures that I have put on at the moment, can any of you try to write the name of at least one of the philosophers in the chat section? Okay, so we have Plato from Giselle. Okay, right, Plato is one of them. Plato is one of them. Apart from Plato, can you recognize any of the pictures? So we have Plato and we have Aristotle. We also have Richard Dawkins, who is also an evolutionary scientist, but has a lot also to say. We also have Richard Swinburne, and we have some of those Kierkegaard and some of these old famous modern philosophers. And as we start in September, you come across most of these philosophers in our various lessons or topics. So what do we want to cover this morning? So the content of our presentation will be why study areas of philosophy and ethics at A-level. Then what will I study for A-level? So we look at the content of what you're going to study. Then we also look at the exam layout. Then also a few warnings, or what we say, a few instructions as to some of the things that we are going to you're going to encounter once you start in September. Okay. So with regards to philosophy and ethics, or RAS at A-level, it's just like a subject like no other, in the sense that in philosophy, we look at the difficult questions. Okay, so we encounter the difficult questions and we try to find answers to those questions. Now, thinking about philosophy and ethics, or RAS at A-level, is that there are no obvious straight answers at all when you're searching for the truth. And so we do a lot of analysis and evaluation as far as our own point of views are concerned, and also alongside the views of other thinkers who also have various views. And so we deal with the big questions of life and try to examine the rich treasures trove of answers to questions. So questions such as what can we know? What can we know? Which is understanding reality. In the world that we live in, everything that we see in this world, are they real, or there are certain things that go beyond this world? And so Plato and Aristotle, for example, have something to say as to regards to their understanding of reality. We also look at the questions such as, can the existence of God be demonstrated through reason and logic alone, on through observations? And are they enough to give us enough evidence to believe in the existence of God? Then we also look at some of the ethical questions, such as how do we decide what is right? Should our emotions or reason guide our moral choices? So we know that in our real practical life, sometimes we base some of our decisions on emotions, and sometimes also we use our reason. And so we see that when we use our reason, most of the time we are able to make right choices. But when we use our emotions, sometimes things can be a bit difficult for us. We also look at such questions such as the human soul and the mind also. Are they distinct from each other? So some people believe that we have a soul, others also don't believe that we have a soul. And so if we have a soul or we have a mind and the body, are they separate? Do they work separately, or do they work together to make everything work out perfectly for us? And we also look at the business side of things, whether business have what you call can work ethically to make sure that not only profit important, but also apart from profit, can they do in order to earn their profit, can they do things the right way to earn their profit? So these are some of the questions that we tend to encounter during our philosophy and ethics. So I'm sure some of you may have heard of our philosophy and ethics, or RAS, at A level, and it's one of the key important subjects in our school, not only in our school, but in our general society. So studying philosophy, it can be an eye-opening in the sense that it's a subject that you can develop a lot of transferable key skills to other areas of subject and also other areas of life, especially in terms of your careers, because it involves a lot of critical thinking and also independent thought. And so you have to be able to also come out with some reasoned argument, and we are also open to debate and also open-mindedness and persistent thinking. So there is no one way of getting an answer. It's all about your ability to think, your ability to think critically, and being able to also come out with some reasoned arguments. But also you can disagree with certain views or opinions, but the most important thing is your ability to also critically come out with your own argument is also very, very important. And so philosophy is one of the most important courses that all around the world people recognize. And so in studying philosophy, you are well prepared for jobs such as being able to think critically. Most of the jobs in our society requires us to be able to critically think. And so, for example, if you work in management consultancy, or if you work in accountancy or in the law firm, or those, for example, who work in bank and do analysis, or bank analysts, in the law, in politics, in the civil service, those of you who want to be journalists also, it's a great opportunity to be able to learn how to think critically and also be able to write critically, and also in terms of advertising and also education. So it is one of the most respected courses because of the fact that people who do it are able to also critically think. And these are some of the people that we need in our society. So it is not a matter of just reading a book and just reproducing or regurgitating what you have read, but your ability to make good use of it through your thinking ability is very, very important. So there is depth to it, there is complexity, and also in terms of the intellectual challenge is very, very good. So you can have fun with our areas or the philosophy and ethics. It can be fun if you are up for it, but also it can make things sometimes difficult for you if you, for example, you are not one of those who likes reading, or you don't like to be challenged in terms of your ability to think further and come up with solutions to certain problems. Okay. So what will you study for A-level religious studies of philosophy and ethics? So in our course, it's divided into 3 different sections, okay? So we have the philosophy part, then we have the ethics part, and we also have the development in Christian thought. So we often, we do the OCR exams, and so with our course, it is linear, which means that if you start from year 12, you write exams at the end of the 2 years, which is year 13. That's where you write your final exams. And so at year 12, you do our normal lesson, sometimes you get a what you call an essay to write at the end of the topics that you learn. Then probably somewhere around April, you have one mock exams. Then at year 13, that is where when you finish, that is where you write the final OCR exams. And so in philosophy, we deal with different topics. In ethics also, we deal with different topics. And development in Christian thought also, we deal with different topics. So let's go further to see what we do, some of the things we do in philosophy, and some of the things we do in ethics and development in Christian thought. Okay, so in philosophy, these are some of the things that we are going to encounter. So you see some of the questions over there. What is real? So we look at, for example, Plato and Aristotle's understanding of reality. So even though Aristotle was a student of Plato, he disagrees with him in terms of his understanding of reality. So for example, Plato is someone who believes that the world that we live in is not the real world and that things are imperfect. And there lies another world called the world of forms beyond this world, where we can't see with our naked eyes. That is where perfection comes from. And so Plato disagrees with him because Plato is more of someone who is a scientist. So he wants things to be physical. He wants things to have evidence to believe. And so he disagrees with Plato, and they have different understanding as far as what is real in this world is concerned. We also look at how do we know that God exists? So in this topic, we look at different questions. We look at the teleological argument of Paley. We also look at the cosmological argument, and we also look at other forms of argument to see whether we'll be able to prove that God really exists. So some arguments use observation, looking at the things around us in this world to be able to arrive at the conclusion, while some arguments like Anselm and the ontological argument look at just using logic to prove that God exists. Then another topic that we look at is there such a thing as the soul? Do we have a soul? Some people believe that we have a soul, and as a result of that, when you die, your soul goes to a different place, whilst others also disagree. And so we have various philosophers who have different opinions about whether we have a soul. And if you have a soul, then what role does it play in our lives or in our body? So these are some of the things that we look at. Then the next one is, does the problem of evil disapprove God? Okay, so we look at the world that we live in, and we know that there's a lot of evil and suffering in this world. And as a result of that, a lot of people believe that a God who is a good God, who is a loving God, will not allow evil to happen, evil and suffering to happen in this world. And yet we see evil and suffering in this world. And so as a result of that, some people believe that it becomes a contradiction to have a God who is loving, who is also a good God, and yet also allow evil and suffering to happen. Because from a Christian theological point of view, God is a good God, and God does not allow anything like evil. God is not an evil God, and so he's a good God. And so if he's a good God, then some people believe that God needs to do something or stop the evil. And so there are various arguments that have been labeled against God, and as a result of that, it has been used as one of the reasons why some people do not have belief in God. So these are some of the things we will look at in the philosophy part. Now, with regards to the Christian thought, we look at some of the topics that Christianity come about, and we challenge some of these topics. So, for example, will everyone go to heaven? There are various opinions. Some believe that everyone will go to heaven. Others also believe that some people will go, others will not. Others also don't believe even in the idea of heaven at all. So we look at various views from various philosophers, and we are able to also come up with argument and we counter their argument, or we agree with them. Then the next one is, was Jesus really divine? So some people believe that Jesus was a preacher. Others also believe that he was a liberator. Others believe that he is more than a liberator. He is just a person. And some people also believe that he's not just a person, a liberator or a preacher, but he is also God. And so we look at some of the questions within this area and question what kind of evidence do we have to be able to know whether he is really a divine, he's a liberator, or he is a person just like us, or he is just someone who came to just live his own life. Then the next one is faith a sufficient reason to believe in God? So for a lot of religious people, they believe that when it comes to God, you don't necessarily need physical evidence. It's a matter of faith. And so just even though you haven't seen with your naked eye, there might not be physical evidence, but you can use your faith to believe that it exists. And that alone can make a lot of people believe that God exists. And so you look at those kind of views and you're able to come out with some argument to agree or challenge this kind of views, whether faith is sufficient reason to believe in God. And also, can you be a Christian and commit a murder? These are some of the things that we will look at. So, for example, one of the views or one of the thinkers called Bonhoeffer, which we look at, Bonhoeffer was a German and he lived in America for a while. And at the time that Hitler was killing a lot of people, and he disagreed with Hitler. And as a Christian, he thought that, yeah, because of what Hitler was doing, it wasn't good enough. And so he thought that it would be better to eliminate or to assassinate and kill Hitler instead of allowing him to do what he was doing. And so he had a lot of things to say. So the question is, can you be a Christian and commit murder, knowing that killing someone, according to the Christian Bible, is wrong to kill someone? So is it possible to do that and still call yourself a Christian? You look at those kind of things. Now, when you look at the ethical aspect of it, we look at various sides of ethics. So, for example, questions like, what does it mean to do good? If you say that, for example, you're a good person, or what she did was good, what does it mean to say something is good? What does it mean? Then you also look at questions such as, are some acts always wrong? In our society, people do different kinds of things. So, for example, murder. If someone had to defend him or herself from someone killing him, and the person end up killing that person, is the act always wrong, or are there various reasons behind it? You also look at that, and you also look at whether does morality depend on the situation? What is right or wrong? Does it depend on the situation? Like, for example, the murder situation. If you had to kill, let's say, one person to save about 100 people, would we consider that as right? Or no matter what, if you kill someone, it is always wrong? You also look at that. Will you kill one person to save 100? So these are some of the ethical questions that we will also encounter in our ethical aspect. We will also look at some ethical aspects regarding to business ethics. We will also look at other aspects regarding sexual ethics and also various kinds of ethics in our ethics study. So now, for the purpose of this taster lesson, we are going to focus on ethics. Okay, so in ethics, we have two sections. The first one is meta ethics, and the second one is normative ethics. So they all look at things from a different perspective. And so, for example, when you talk about meta ethics, what it does is that it seeks to understand the nature of ethical judgment or attitude or certain judgment that we make in our society. We often say whether somebody has done something, and we often condemn them, make a judgment whether what the person has done is right or what the person has done is wrong. And we may have various reasons. So we also analyze the meaning of the kind of a moral language that we use. So, for example, if we say, what does it mean to claim that something is good or bad, or something is right or wrong? What does it mean to say that? Do we have a reason to say that? Some people might say that we say that something is good or bad because it is a fact of this world. So, for example, if lying is wrong in the UK, then lying is wrong everywhere in the world. But the question is it just straightforward? Or are there reasons, or are there certain times that we will say, yes, we know lying is wrong, but because of this or that reason, you will accept that because of the situation? Or is it the case that lying is just wrong? For some people, saying that something is good or bad, for some people, it's not just a fact of the world, but it's just because of your emotions. So if you say something is good or something is bad, it's just like your emotions are in it and you don't like it because maybe that thing produces pain and suffering and you don't like it. And because of your emotions, you think that it is not good. And some people also think that you when it comes to what is right or wrong, you use your intuition to be able to decide what is right or wrong. So we have three various views that various philosophers or various thinkers often use. Then the other aspect is normative ethics. And so when it comes to normative ethics, we look at more of a practical situations. It's more practical in nature. Okay, so we look at the action itself. So if someone has lied or someone has committed murder, then we look at the action itself. Then we evaluate the standard of whether it is right or wrong. But in our evaluation, we use certain approaches or we have certain methods that we use. So some of the approaches that we use to judge whether the person has behaved in a certain way or what the person has done is wrong, we use certain approaches. So the first one is what you call the act itself. So on what basis are we going to judge whether the person has done something wrong or something right? So the act itself, we look at, for example, if it's murder, is the act of murder wrong, no matter the situation? Are we going to take other things into consideration? So, for example, if you were standing in front of your house and you had an armed robber comes to your house and want to kill you, are you going to stand there for the person to kill you? But in trying to defend yourself, if you end up killing the person, then is the act killing wrong? For some people, no matter what, whether you're defending yourself or not, it will be seen as wrong. For some people also, they look at the consequences of your action to use to judge whether it is right or wrong. So in the case of, for example, defending yourself against an armed robber, if you have the right to defend yourself, so in trying to defend yourself, if you have to kill the person to survive, then these people will say, in the long run, you have the right to defend yourself. So if you have to kill the person to survive, then the consequences of your action is right because you have the right to live, and no one has the right to take your life. And so because you have survived, then of course it is the right thing to do because you are able to save your life. Others also look at both of them, they put the two together. They look at the action itself that you have committed and the consequences. And as a result of that, they are able to judge whether it is the right thing or it is the wrong thing. And so, for example, if there was a terrorist in this school and we have almost about 1,800 students in the school, and if, let's say, one of the students or one of the teachers is able to get a gun and kill the terrorist instead of allowing the terrorist to kill a number of people over here, would that action be considered as the right thing or the wrong thing? So some people will look at the action itself. Then some people will look at the consequences and say, okay, he was able to save a number of students. And so if killing the terrorist helped in saving 1,800 students, then it will be considered as right. For some people, they will say, no, yes, he has saved a lot of people, but he's also killed the terrorist, and killing is not good. So no matter what, the fact that he's killed someone is not good. So these are some of the various arguments, various approaches that we are going to use to judge a certain situation as to whether they are right or wrong. Okay, so for the next moment, we are going to look at this situation and see whether we'll be able to come up with some solutions to that. So let's test your ethics. I have put just a small scenario on there. Have a look at this scenario and look at the questions. You can write your opinion, your views in the chat section. So this is a situation that happened in 2016, where a court in the UK considered the case of a father who imprisoned his own daughter in a cage in an overseas apartment to save her daughter from going off the rails, okay, and socializing with her friends in the UK and also going to the club. The father didn't like that. So he decided to kidnap his own daughter and just imprison the daughter in an apartment overseas. The British court said that the girl should be freed and be allowed to return to the UK. But the father believed that he was doing the right thing. So how do we decide which intuition is the right? Is the father's or the court? Who is right? So you decide and you can share your views. And in deciding which one you think is the correct, what factors influence your decision? What do you think, or what do you make of the father's actions? Do you think it is right or wrong? And if you think it is right or wrong, what kind of factors influence your decision to say that the father or the court is right or wrong? Now, what does this case tell us about moral decisions? What does it tell us about moral decisions? Is it straightforward? or you have to take certain situations into considerations. So for the next 5 minutes, just look at this scenario and you can share your views in the chat section. Okay, so the question is that this father didn't want her daughter to be living a certain lifestyle, especially socializing with her friends and going to the club and having so much freedom, because the child, he believes that the child her lifestyle will not be good based on the culture in which the father comes from, and also the way he wants to brought up the child. And so he doesn't want the child to be able to have the freedom like it, because he believes that by the child going to the club and socializing with her friends, he will pick up certain bad behavior. And as a result of that, he doesn't want the child to be like that. And so he believes that by imprisoning the child in a cage over his apartment, the child will not have the opportunity to come back to the UK to be able to find herself in this kind of situation. Because if he brings the child to the UK, then it means that the child will obviously have to go to school and will have opportunity to meet her friends and also do whatever he needs to do, because the child, in essence, was at university, which means that he was not staying at home. So he can have the opportunity to go out, have fun, and do whatever he wanted. And the dad believes that if the child is allowed to do those kind of things, then the child will go off the rails and will not be focused in terms of education and her life. So he doesn't want the child to pick up. The child believes that there is some bad behaviors that he'll pick up from the friends. For example, maybe going out to the club, drinking and getting drunk, and probably doing all sorts of things with the friends, or maybe having all sorts of views that his religion or his culture will not permit. And so this is what the dad did. And the dad believed that he was doing the right thing because it's his child and he can decide how he wants to bring his child up, not the court. But obviously, the problem you have is that you cannot, for example, live in the UK and have children and bring your children up in the UK without the UK culture influencing your child. It's highly impossible. And so obviously your child will make friends. Your child will want to have fun. Probably your child goes to university. They will have the freedom, because even if they go to university, you are not there. So they have the opportunity to go out to the clubbing or drinking or all sorts of lifestyle that you can think of when a student especially go to the university, and they do. And so the father doesn't like it. Okay, so you believe that it's an abuse. So there are better ways to express concern. Okay. So in this case, who is right? Is it the court or the father? Is it the court or the father? Because the father believes he was the one who is the father of the child, and he's got the right to bring up the child in the way he wants it. Okay, so some of you feel that the father started in a good way, but obviously the father had good intention, but the way he's going about it is not the right way. The right way. So some of you also feel that the court is right. Yeah. So the case is that it's not a clear cut. So this is where meta ethics and normative ethics come in there. So if we are going to judge that, for example, the court is right or the father is right, on what basis are we judging? Are we judging that the act itself, which is what we call deontological ethics, is the act itself that the father has done, is it considered as wrong? Or are you looking at the consequences of what the father has done? So if in the long run, the father is able to bring up the child the way he thinks the child should be brought up, and the child end up being a good child as he grows up, then the father might say, I am justified in doing that because in the long run, she's a good girl, she was well brought up, and as a result of that, I'm justified in trying to do what I'm doing. But here is the case, the court sees a different way, because from the court's point of view, you cannot imprison your child in a cage because your child, as one of you wrote in there, your child is not an animal to be put in a cage. So the child needs freedom. And so these are some of the things that we are going to look at, some of the scenarios you're going to look at and decide what factors influence the father's decision to imprison the child in a cage. Okay, so you think both are wrong. Okay, so it means that it is not a clear-cut case. It is not a clear-cut case because the court might feel that they also have the right to stop the father from doing what he's doing. The father might also think that the court has no right to tell him how he should brought up his own child. So when it comes to what is right or wrong, we see that sometimes it's not clear-cut. Some situations are quite clear-cut, others are not. And so when it's not clear-cut, then how do we decide what is right or wrong? Okay, let's look at the next scenario and see. Let's look at the first one. Do you think morals are fixed on changing things that are the same for all? Is what is right or wrong? Is it fixed? So that if you come to the UK and it is fixed, then if you go anywhere in the world, it's the same. If it's wrong in the UK, it is wrong everywhere. Or if it's right in the UK, it means it's right everywhere. Are morals fixed? Are they unchanging? Or are they the same for all? Or are morals more about what society thinks? Or what about what individual people think? So when it comes to what is right or wrong, is it the society who decides for us? Or is the individual who decides for themselves? And is it the same thing for everyone? Just share your views for the next 3 minutes in the chat section. Are there some times that you think that what is wrong, if it's wrong over here, everywhere it is wrong? Or are there some times that you think what you consider as wrong is not fixed? It can change depending on the situation. So think about what is happening in the world right now with this all of this corona thing, and think about what, for example, our prime minister and the people in power are deciding for us. Do you think it's the right thing, or do you think it's the wrong thing? So if it is the right thing, then it means that there are some times society will have to decide for us as to what is wrong, and everyone will have to follow. But there are sometimes also some individuals who believe that no, this is not the society who decide for me. I decide for myself what is right or wrong. And some people also believe that what is right or wrong is fixed. So, for example, if murder is wrong in the UK, then everywhere in the world it is wrong, no matter what, irrespective of the situation or irrespective of the circumstance. Okay, so some of you believe that collectively a society or community can have influence in terms of what is right or wrong, but at certain times also experience or individual beliefs may also influence it. So again, one of you also said that a society plays a big part in morals because it goes by what is socially acceptable. Yeah. So in a society, the society that we live in, remember we are born into a society, and the societies have got laws and rules that they have decided. And so there are certain things that society will see as the right thing, the society will decide for us. And there are certain things also, especially when it comes to our personal life, then certain things we have to decide for ourselves, whether we think it is the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. So there are certain things you do, it will be considered as morally wrong, but in essence, it is not against the law. So for example, if someone was married to his or a partner and that person ended up cheating on the partner, society, people might see it as wrong, but it's an individual issue, okay? So even though society, a lot of people in our society might see it as a wrong thing, you cannot be put into prison because that person cheated on the partner. But everybody in our society might think or know that cheating on your partner, for example, is a wrong thing to do. So there are some times that some people see certain moral situations as right, no matter which society you find yourself in. And sometimes also other people might take different things into consideration before they judge whether it is right or it is wrong. And in most cases, society also decides a lot of things for us. Okay, so well done for your contributions. Okay, so what are some of the key skills that we will need within our philosophy and ethics? So you need to be able to know how to develop persuasive argument. Your literacy skills are also very important. And being able to ask relevant questions, because you will see that most of the things that we will learn, you will have the opportunity to question it, whether you agree or disagree. Then being able to think critically. You just don't have to accept just anything that a thinker says. It might make sense, but does it mean that it is true, or does it mean that it's a fact? You may disagree with it and have your own views. Being able to also make critical analysis is very important, and being able to reflect on certain situations. Then being able to synthesize, put different ideas together, and being able to argue it is also very important. And being able to evaluate certain issues, why you agree or you disagree, and reach a conclusion. And being able to interpret certain situations and arrive at a conclusion. So these are some of the key skills that you're going to learn in your pursuits of RS or philosophy and ethics. Okay, so in terms of exams, for year 1 or at year 12, remember this is a linear course, and so you do final exam at the end of the 2 years, which is at the end of year 13. But usually after the first year to year 12, we have mock exams, and so in mock exams we mark it over 30. So as part of it, I'm sure most of you have already done that in other subject in terms of the first part of the marks, which refers to A01, which is your knowledge and understanding of the topic. And the second one is how you analyze and evaluate it. It's also 15 marks. So both of them. So in terms of marking, we look at your knowledge of the topic or your knowledge about a particular situation. How much do you know about it? Then you mark that over 15, and also whether you are able to analyze the knowledge. also and evaluate it and arrive at a good conclusion. But at year 2, which is year 13, the marks change slightly. So we look at knowledge and understanding also, but at year 13, the knowledge understanding is 60 marks, and the analysis and evaluation is 24 marks. Because at year 13, we expect that you'll be able to not just accept any view that anyone says, you should be able to look at the view and be able to be critical about the view. What is good about it, what is bad about it, and being able to come out with your own views to justify why you think it is not a good view or you think it's a bad view and arrive at a good conclusion. And at year 13, it is marked over 40. Okay, so in terms of the final exams at year 13, you often, if you go back to what I explained over here, you see that the exams, you have different questions. So for example, philosophy paper, you have 4 questions, then you answer 3. Then the ethics questions, you have 4 questions and you answer 3. Then development in Christian thought also, you have 4 questions, you answer 3. So they don't put everything together and you sit down for like 3-4 hours and write all of them. No, you write each and every one of them separately. So you have philosophy paper, you write it, then a different date. You have the ethics part and you write it. Then also development in Christian thought part. So when it is marked, then all the marks are put together. Then it's calculated and you get your final grade for the exams. Okay. Now the last thing I'm going to talk about is the summer preparation task. So we often have a task that we give to you to look at it before you come back in September. So that will at least refresh your mind about some of the things that we are going to look at. And I'm sure you've been given already the summer task, but if you haven't been given, I'll just go over it. And so these are some of the things that the first task is these are some of the terms that we are going to use in our lesson. And so it's very important you understand some of these key terms. So the first task is that we are going to write the definition for each and every one of these words, key words. That's the first summer task. And the second task is a bit of an essay. Okay, so you need to be able to write approximately just about 300 words each. So the first one is on ethics. There are no moral rules that apply to all people of all time. Morality is totally dependent on the culture, the time, and the place discussed. So just like we did in our previous way, we discussed whether you think when it comes to moral rules, does it apply to certain people at all times, or does it change? Is it dependent on the culture? Is it dependent on the time that people live in or the place that people live? So we're going to discuss it. And the second question is, if God cannot be proven to exist by using empirical evidence, then it is not logical to believe in a God. Okay, so this is one of the arguments that a lot of people use, that if you say that God exists, then I need evidence, I need physical evidence, empirical evidence to show that God exists. Because if I don't have this empirical evidence, then it doesn't make sense for me to logically believe that God exists. Discuss. Do you agree with it? If you agree with it, why do you agree with this kind of argument? If you disagree, why do you disagree? Maybe you have various reasons. So look at the bigger picture as to why some people believe in God, even though there might not be empirical or physical evidence. And look at it. And just about 300 words. So this is the second part of the task that you need to do. And so this task needs to be submitted by 24th of September. So you have now until 24th of September to be able to submit the task. Okay. Okay, so time for some questions. So based on what I have gone through now, if you have any question, you can just type your questions in the chat section. We're going to use the next about 5-6 minutes for questions. If anything that you want to know about the course or the content or exams or anything concerning anything that some fears that you have about the course, you can type a question in the chat section and I will explain everything. Yes, definitely the key skills. We don't expect you to have the key skills by the end of year 12. No, this is why at the end of every topic, so one topic could take maybe about 6 weeks, or sometimes even one topic can take about 6 weeks or even 5 weeks to finish that. So at the end of the lesson, we give you essay. So the essence of the essay that we give you is for you to be able to write it and practice your skills every day. So when we mark it, we give you a feedback. And so you use the feedback to develop and even improve more on the skills. So during the lessons also, we will teach you how to use those key skills, how to be able to write the knowledge and understanding, and how to be able to analyze and evaluate. So every lesson that we do, you have the opportunity to practice it. So by the time, sometimes for most students, by the time you get to you finish year 12, most of you have already good skill with regards to how to write the essays. And for some people, by the time you're about to write your final exams, most people, or majority of them, or all of them, are able to learn the key skills. So that is something that we will do it in every lesson. So you have more time to practice it, and by the end of the course, you'll be able to write the exams and not have to worry about what you need to do so much. Okay, so I'm sure probably you've been sent the summer task, but if you haven't been sent it, I have just forwarded it on the chat section about the summer task and everything that you're going to go through. So you can download it later on, or you can download it now. It's up to you. If you haven't been sent already, you can download it from the chat section. Okay, any other question before I bring it to an end? So as you can see, the philosophy part, the ethics part, and the Christian thought part, we have different teachers who teach it. So one teacher will teach the philosophy part, then another teacher will teach the ethics part, then also the Christian thought part. So all of them will be well taught. And over the past years, the students that we've had in our A-level areas of philosophy and ethics have really done well. So we've not really had anyone who has failed at all. So as much as you are ready to put a bit of effort in there, then of course you will do well. So you will be provided with some of the materials when you come over here, especially the first week or the second week. You have some materials. Some of them I would also print some of them also for you to be able to use it for your revision also. And there are a couple of books that have been included in what I have just sent you that you will also need in terms of being able to revise more. So once you come in September, you'll be able to get more information about the kind of books that you will need to be able to read to be able to improve more. But in terms of the skill, yes, we teach you and we help you to be able to do that. So once you're able to understand, have the knowledge and understanding, and the skills should be something that after we teach you, you should be able to write your essays quite easily if you put effort into it. Okay. Any question? Any more question? Okay. So in the absence of any other question, I'm going to bring our taster lesson presentation to an end. And hopefully, I should meet you in September so that we can have fun and enjoy our lesson. So make sure if you haven't had a taster, your summer task being sent to you through your email already, you also have it on the chat section, so you can download that and know what you need to do to bring your task when you come back in September. So it's been a pleasure speaking to all of you online, and hopefully we should meet again in September. So have a good day and have a good summer, and hopefully see you in September. Bye to everyone.